Bagley.
Here.
Harding.
Here.
Hug.
Here.
Johnson is absent. Milton.
Here.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Here. Please rise for the pledge and remarks by Councilmember Milton.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, everybody please have a seat. I'm just going to take just a minute as school is getting back into session. One of the biggest complaints I get is speeding and speeding around school. So while all of our kiddos are getting back into school, number one, please remind your teenage kids who are driving to slow it down. I'm doing the same for mine. But let's just be cognizant of the kids that are out there walking to school, walking home from school. Just be mindful of that. Be mindful of the buses, and don't pass the buses when they have the stop sign out. You know, as part of Vision Zero, we want no pedestrian casualties, and let's make sure we don't have any of those with our kiddos too. So just asking everybody to be mindful of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of legislative chambers.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Omaha City Council. We appreciate having you here today. We look forward to hearing from you on our many items. I'd encourage you to turn your cell phones off or at least to vibrate. And if you have any difficulty hearing the presentations today, you can visit our Building Commission representative here at the diocese for hearing assistance, or there's also a closed caption on the screen in the back. We'll start today's ceremony before we get to our regular agenda with a proclamation to be read by Councilmember Hug on behalf of Officer Keith Thompson and National Suicide Prevention Month.
Thank you, Mr. President. I got to know Keith Thompson long after the accident, and we did have an opportunity to spend some, what I would call, quality time together. And the one thing I took away from my conversations with Keith was how proud he was of his family. And if that's the one thing I can say about Keith, I can assure you with every bone in my body that there's no doubt in my mind that he was very, very proud of his family. So that being said, I'll read the proclamation. If the family would like to come up to the podium, please. As President Festerson mentioned, September 1st begins Suicide Prevention Month. So in honor of that, I'll read the proclamation. If I get through it, I'll be amazed. Whereas Keith Thompson served in the U.S. military as a military policeman and was hired onto the Omaha Police Department in the 1991 recruit class. Whereas Officer Thompson was involved in a horrific car accident on the night of August 28, 1996, near the intersection of 24th and Wirt Street, in which he was pinned in the Mango police cruiser, suffering a traumatic brain injury and leaving him paralyzed without the use of his legs. And whereas, following the car accident, Officer Thompson had to relearn how to perform basic functions, including eating, speaking, and walking, always the goal of returning to the Omaha Police Department. And whereas Officer Thompson was able to return to service just 13 months later, working in the telephone response unit and retiring after a 30-year career with OPD in April of 2021. And whereas Officer Thompson never quit fighting to regain his mobility, finally receiving an exoskeleton device that allowed him to walk again in 2020. And whereas Officer Thompson's incredible spirit of perseverance and hard work made him a hero and an inspiration to his community and his family, demonstrating that there is no quit. And whereas Officer Thompson lost his battle to PTSD August 31st, 2022, took his own life. And whereas Officer Thompson's life, service, and sacrifice show his true spirit of public service and heroism. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of City of Omaha declares August 31st, 2024, Keith Thompson Day.
If the family would like to share some words about Officer Thompson, you're welcome to do that.
I would like to first off thank the City Council with a special thank you on behalf of our whole family to Councilman Hug for honoring the man all of us truly love and miss with this proclamation. It's an honor. My father truly loved his job and the city he devoted his life for. Side note, my father was writing a book before he passed and was asked if he knew he was going to get hurt, would he still have become a cop? He explained yes. That's who he was. With Suicide Prevention Month coming in September, we as a family want to send a message that in those tough battles some of us are going through, silent or not, we are here, we're here to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that
Mr.
message.
Mr. President, I want to point out that this is, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Hearing your voice, I'm sorry. This is Keith's son, Reed, and he is an Omaha firefighter. He's carrying on the family tradition of public service. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Say something. Can I say something?
Oh, yes, please.
To some of us, Keith was a father, a son, a grandpa, a brother, an uncle, cousin, nephew, and a brother-in-law, a cop, a partner, a friend, a comedian. But to all of us, he is an inspiration, a motivator, a survivor of many years. He's our hero. We would like to thank you for being here today and for doing this. It means the world to us. Thank you.
You bet. It's our pleasure. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk.
Item 6, to consider a Class CCSK liquor license for Lit Cigars, Spirits, and Lounge located at 1303 Cummings Street, Suites A and B.
Councilmember, this item was postponed from the August 20th meeting. The vote is today. We'll call the applicant up to give us a report on how things went over the last week.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council members, my name is David Houghton here on behalf of the applicant, Family Cigar Lounge LLC, doing business as Lit Cigars, Spirits, and Lounge, which will be located at 1303 Cummings Street, Suites A and B. My address is 2804 South 87th Ave. I'm happy to report that my clients and the former opponents have been in talks over the last week, and my clients have committed to utilizing some best efforts to avoid any opposition of the condo association and their future neighbors. I'd like the council to know this is not without a cost to my clients. We anticipate that it's going to be a $15,000 to $20,000 undertaking, but it's really important to them that they are going to be a part of the community and their condo association, and they want to be good neighbors for years to come. With that said, there are a few specific things that they've kind of agreed to offline. We would prefer that those are not stipulated to on the record, but insofar as they're commercially reasonable and the costs don't exceed what we anticipate they will exceed, my clients will move forward with some of their recommendations. If you have any specific questions of my clients about their operations, they're both in attendance today and would be happy to weigh in.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Harding, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I have Rob Zimmerman come down? I guess I'll leave it as an open question because my understanding was a little differently than maybe what I just heard in part. But could you maybe for the record explain what your understanding is of where you are with this agreement?
Hi, thank you and good afternoon. Yeah, that is a little different than what we spoke to the applicants about yesterday because we did propose a written agreement, and then we decided that by having the stipulations stated that that would be acceptable and that they would follow through on the stipulations. But it is what it is. If they don't feel like doing that, then we'll just have to take them for their word.
Okay, thank you.
Any other lights, or is there a motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. No further lights. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 7, to consider a Class I, K, and L liquor licenses for Upstream Brewing Company located at 514 South 11th Street.
This item was also postponed from our August 20th meeting. The public hearing and vote is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Vanessa Silk with Baird Holm. I represent the applicant, Upstream Brewing Company, LLC. The manager on that application, Justin Halbert, is here to answer questions. This is a little bit unique circumstance, and we appreciate the council laying this over until today's meeting. So Upstream Brewing Company has been in business for quite a while, and they went through a change of ownership a couple of years ago. And in that process, the commission, Liquor Control Commission, has a couple of different ways to handle that when there's a change of ownership. And one is just a notification form. It's pretty fast-tracked, doesn't require a new application. The other route, depending on the percentage of new ownership, requires a brand new application. Well, somewhere in the mix of how that was handled at the time, the commission accepted just that form update. Well, it turns out when they went to update their license multiple years later, it was flagged as, well, gosh, this was enough of a change of ownership. There should have been a new application at the time. So they contacted me. I worked with the applicants and with the commission to clear this issue and bring them up to speed with what's required by statute. And so the commission is fully informed, and we worked at the same time. There was a notice from Mr. Kalala regarding restaurant tax and some questions about a few particular months. And so that happened the day before the last hearing. And so to ensure that everyone had the information they needed and everything was clear, that's why we asked for this to be laid over. Mr. Kalala, I understand, has reported to the Finance Department that he is satisfied with the response. And certainly if there's further questions, we'll answer those. And if you have any specific questions for Justin Halbert here about management of the license, we're happy to answer those. But with that, I ask for your yes vote on this L, I, and K license for Upstream Brewing Company. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. Curtis, question for you.
Steve Curtis, City Finance.
Are we good to go on the restaurant tax, and are we all clear on the city side for this?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Curtis.
Sure.
Ms. Silk, thank you for, is it Silky? Sorry.
It's Silk.
Silk, thanks for coming down, and I'm glad to make a motion to support this. And the Upstream's been a staple of that old market, and I'm glad they're staying.
Yep.
And I wish the new owner continued success and many years to come. So glad to make a motion to support this. Thanks,
Thank
Mr.
you.
President.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley.
Aye.
Harding.
Yes.
Hug.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Item 8, to consider a Class A liquor license for Amigos Market located at 2104 Q Street.
Public hearing and vote on number 8 is today. Proponents, please.
2104 Q Street. I'm the applicant for Liquor License LLC.
Okay. And your name, please?
Pastor Rivera.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley.
Aye.
Harding. Hug.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 9, to consider a special designated liquor license application for Cabalgata Zapata for a fundraiser event on September 21st from noon to midnight with music ending at midnight with an alternate date of September 28th.
Public hearing and vote on number 9 is today. We have the applicant by Zoom. We'll get you off mute here in a second. All right, try that.
Oh, it doesn't look like the video's working. Okay, maybe it is. Oh. Yes, my name is Quetzalia. I'm not sure why the camera's not working, but
It's okay.
I am the treasurer of Cabalgata Zapata, and I am here with my father.
My name is Armando Pliego. I'm the president of Cabalgata Zapata.
Okay, thank you. And then just your
And
address,
we're-
please?
Yes, that is 6515 North 49th Street.
All right.
And we are requesting permission for the special designated license to extend the music for the fundraiser. It reads on the agenda from 12 to 12, but it's 11 to 12 a.m. So just for like an hour.
Okay. Thank you.
We are open for any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll ask if there's any other proponents in the audience that want to speak. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Hug.
I recognize this. We approved a couple of permits for you in the past, have we not?
Yes, that is correct. However, because of the weather, we've had to cancel some. So before we had requested July 27th, August 17th, August 31st, September 14th, October 5th, and October 12th. But because of the weather and because we're just starting, we didn't have the contacts to get something scheduled. And so we have canceled the date of August 17, August 31st, September 14th. And as of now, we have October 5th and October 12th open. But because it's an outside event, we're thinking that it's probably going to be too cold because of the weather. But we still would like to leave those open. And so as of now, we are asking we're requesting for the date of September 21st. We were actually able to host a fundraiser on July 27th, and that's the only date that did really work for us. But we have had to cancel the other 3 dates, it looks like. So if we could be allowed for the September 21st with the alternate date of September 28th would be great, just because, I feel like the weather would probably allow us to have something then instead of, the other dates that we had already in mind as we're just starting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
And council members, I was in conversations with the clerk. If the applicant desires to start the events at 11 a.m., that would be possible if one wanted to amend that today. The actual application we have on file does start at noon to midnight. So if that was the desire, an amendment would need to take place to change that to 11.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I misspoke. It is actually 12 p.m. But on the application, I guess I just misread. I was thinking it read 11 to end at 11 p.m. But
Okay.
the request is to extend it from 11 p.m.
Okay.
to midnight, but starting at 12 p.m. Sorry about that.
Okay, sure, no problem. So it is noon to midnight as the agenda item indicates. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Yes, that's correct.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10, an ordinance to rezone property located at 3006 and 3010 South 9th Street from R5 District to R7 District. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. B is communication and opposition.
Public hearing and vote on number 10 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Motion and second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Items 11 and 12 can be considered together for property located at 8810 and 8820 Blondo Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 11, an ordinance to rezone this property from R2 District and LC District to LC District. Item 12, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC Overlay District to incorporate this property into that district.
Public hearing and vote on items 11 and 12 are today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Move the approval.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Consent agenda. Any member of the city council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the city council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed, unless otherwise provided by the city council rules of order.
The public hearings on agenda items 13 through 15 were held on August 20th. I don't see any further lights. Is there a motion?
Move the approval.
Motion, a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
The public hearings on agenda items 16 through 25 are today. If you wish to address the city council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, and who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. These are items 16 through 25. Seeing none, public hearings are closed.
Move the approval.
There's a motion, a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 26, an ordinance levying a special tax and assessment to cover the cost of clearing snow and ice from sidewalks in district number SWSR 2024-01. A's amendment of the whole requested by the Public Works Department.
The vote on number 26 is today. There is an amendment of the whole. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 27, a resolution to approve the appointment of Matt Tondel to the Planning Board.
Public hearing and vote on number 27 is today. Proponents, please. Are there any opponents? Public hearing's closed. I'll note we have Mr. Tondel in the audience. Should council members desire to speak with him? Mr. Harding, you're recognized.
Same, that Mr. Tondel is in the audience, so highly qualified, great, will be a great board member for the Omaha Planning Board, and I'll move his approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Mr. Begley.
Thanks, Mr. President. I'll echo that as well. Matt's been a great help since I've been on the council, on the streetcar and other things in the urban core, so I appreciate that relationship, Matt, and I'll look forward to watching you on the planning board and grilling down and getting some more information out of you on things that I need. You've always been a great help on, so I'm glad to support this today. Thanks.
Thank you. No further lights. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 28, a resolution to approve the reappointment of Christine Johnson to the Omaha Housing Authority.
Public hearing and vote on number 28 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Joni Port, 1823 Harney Street, here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Rowe, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I had a couple of questions for, I guess maybe Joni would be a perfect person to ask. Thanks for being down here to support your appointments.
Absolutely.
So OHA's obviously been in the news a lot the last several months. And
Yes.
I just wanted to give you a chance. Could you kind of update us on some of the changes, or if you've made any changes on how you're doing business?
Sure.
What kind of education things are you doing to help the residents of your properties? Just kind of give us a brief overview.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you very much for inviting me to do so. So we have been in the news quite a bit. Some of that has centered around bed bugs or pests that are in our properties. We have always provided pest control services. We currently use both an internal team and contractor services. We expanded those contractor services near the beginning of the year to better equip our teams to deliver services at our tower locations, and the contractor services to deliver services at our scattered site locations, so that we could kind of divide and conquer and address those issues. We, beginning in the fall last year, became aware of a best practice training that the Douglas County Health Department, the Nebraska Extension Office, entomologists, and HUD all recommend as best practice training. They've all told us that they recommend it across the nation. We had already located that training and have worked on that. It's called stoppests.org, and it's out of Cornell University, so we've implemented that training. We also have worked very closely with the NU Extension Office and the entomologist, Dr. Jody Green. She's come in and actually met individually with our leadership team, our property management team, and specifically with our pest control team. And we have added an additional pest control staff person based upon her recommendation. She saw our staffing and our schedules, and she indicated that we would benefit from that, so we have added that additional position. The next thing that's coming, I've asked our staff to investigate the possibility of utilizing the heat equipment that we have to create heat treatment rooms in each one of our towers. It is not feasible or reasonable to heat treat each unit when there is a bedbug situation. You will know more about bedbugs than you wanted to know here for a moment, but it's not feasible to do that because the bedbugs will go up, down, or either side to side. So, but if we can seal a room and provide that as an opportunity for residents to bring belongings into that and be able to provide that area for them to treat, then those heat treatments can be effective. And so we are going to begin piloting that very soon. And in our towers, we will either find a room that's available, or we are going to exempt a unit and pull a unit offline to make that available to all of our tenants within each of our tower locations. So there's many other things that are happening, but those are some quick updates.
Great. What kind of engagement have you had from your tenants as far as their willingness to work with you on the issues that they're experiencing?
Sure. We work every day side by side with our tenants. I would certainly say sometimes it's the exception rather than the rule, where some tenants are less willing to work with us, but the vast majority are. Today we've got Sal Asaka, who's our longtime director of our resident services. Brought him along in case there were any questions related to that. He's working really closely in a new partnership that we formed with the North Omaha Community Partnership, NCOP program. They are an amazing organization who delivers case management, pantry services, a number of different services throughout the community. They're actually coming in and co-hosting with OHA community fairs in every single tower to connect tenants with services that they might need, either through the North Omaha Community Partnership or through other providers. They have vetted Medicaid waiver providers who can assist tenants who qualify for individuals to come into their home and help with cleaning services, those sorts of things. We've had really exceptional responses to those. I believe Sal had indicated when they were at, I don't want to say, I think it was KJ, they had 90 plus some residents attend that meeting, which is quite a lot. So I know that we can't deliver all the services that the tenants need. We are a landlord. But we need those partners to do that, and we're really fortunate that we have them. And they are not the only one. If anybody's listening to this, that's the only partner. It's just one of the newer ones that we're working with.
I appreciate that. Different topic. You're probably the largest landlord in the city, right? I believe so. And so I guess a question I have, I attended eviction court quite a few months ago. It's been 6 or 9 months ago probably. And I'm curious, what I learned out of that was it's much better to keep tenants in their apartments. When we go through evictions and that kind of thing, people end up on the streets. Mm-hmm. So do you have programs in place that help tenants understand what the ramifications are and how they can mitigate, what kind of things that they can do to avoid eviction and avoid having to live on the street? So what we've implemented since I've been with the organization, and this really started with us implementing a moratorium when COVID first started, before there were any mandated moratoriums, that we weren't going to be evicting anyone, is that all tenants, if they become behind in rent, receive resources that direct them to community organizations. We don't have dollars that can pay back rental costs, those sorts of things, but connect them to resources that can do that. We also connect tenants with, whether it be legal aid or the Creighton Legal Clinic or whomever that is. We've worked closely with those individuals. Obviously, as you can imagine, we're in, we're at eviction court, and so are they. So we make those connections. We don't specifically to deliver eviction prevention classes, those sorts of things. I think that might be what you're asking, so I want to be honest and truthful that we don't deliver those services, but we certainly partner with and refer tenants to where they can get that.
Okay, appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Might want to call up Christine and Jennifer Taylor.
Probably just Christine on this item.
Christine on this. We're just on 28.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Christine Johnson, 26833 Taylor Circle, Valley, Nebraska.
Great. Thank you for coming down today.
Yeah,
I
thank
know
you.
this is a reappointment, so this question probably is moot. But I just wanted to hear, we have so many boards that have appointed board members that are not engaged to the level that we would probably like to see. And I just wanted to hear from you that your engagement, and I know it's high, so maybe it's a moot question, but can you just, verify that you are going to be an active participating board member on the OHA board?
Well, actually, I love that question. So on every board, I have a commitment to excellence. But just to kind of back up a little bit about how did I get involved with OHA, I was the interim CEO beginning in 2018. So I served a 10-month period and really had an opportunity to get to know residents, the staff, understand the concerns, celebrate the successes, and then develop a plan that we needed to in order to advance some of the issues that we had identified. So after a 10-month period of time, I feel like I understand the organization really well, but we were fortunate to have Joni Poor come in as our acting CEO, and she has done a great job, and I'm really happy to have had the first appointment and the ability to partner with the staff and with the residents and really look at how can we make every home something that I would be proud to live in. We're not there yet, but that is my commitment to say, I want that, and I'd really like to work towards it. My whole life has been in social service commitment. I'm a business consultant. I work with nonprofit organizations on how to transform their businesses. I want them to keep the focus of their clients and the mission of the organization first and foremost. So you do have my commitment with high integrity, with excellence, that I will approach this position in that way.
That's a perfect answer. Okay. And I appreciate your willingness to put forth the effort it's a tough job.
It is.
Like I said, not many people are willing to take on those kind of responsibilities. And so I just wanted to thank you for your commitment to OHA and hoping to improve the experience for the tenants.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's all I had, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ms. Milton.
Oh, you know what? I was just going to call Ms. Johnson up and just recognize the fact that she came down and thank you for the service that you have provided in the past. And I appreciate this is a volunteer job, but it's also a board that I know takes up a lot of time. When you care like you do, it is one that you have to volunteer a lot of your time for.
It's a critically important
but
job.
I appreciate it. So
thank you. Any other questions I can answer?
Thank you. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. I don't have any questions for you, but thank you for coming down today. I got a question for City Law.
Yes, sir.
Bernard, I guess to simplify, besides the council voting for nominations from the mayor for the OHA board, what does the city council have as far as authority goes over the Omaha Housing Authority is in regards to policy or financing or personnel?
Bernard Indenbosch, Deputy City Attorney. So the Housing Authority is a creature created by state statute, originally created by, I think back in 1935. If you look at the statutes control the manner in which the Omaha Housing Authority conducts its business. The City of Omaha is responsible, based on state statute, the mayor to appoint and the city council to confirm commissioners to the council. And that is the sole administrative role that the City of Omaha maintains. The OHA conducts its operations, policies, finances, separate and distinct and within the parameters of the state law of the state of Nebraska.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. And that, so the city, in a nutshell, I'm not a lawyer, there's some standing up here that are, but you did a good job of articulating that the city, all we do is appoint, or we vote on the nominations from the mayor. We have no other responsibility or control over OHA.
Yeah, pursuant to Nebraska statute, that's your sole responsibility in regards to overseeing the Omaha Housing Authority and its operations.
Okay, and we're, as I know, being an employee of OPPD, we are creatures of the Nebraska legislature. Is that fair to say?
Every one of us who works, and the rules that we follow every day are pursuant to what the legislature and the Constitution requires us to do, yes.
We didn't miss a beat without Mr. Kuzy back there today, so thanks, Bernard. Thanks for clarifying that. So when we get these nominations that come before us, some are easy, some are tough. I know they had a tough vote back in November 2021 when there was 20 employees of the Omaha Housing Authority. Through no fault of their own, they were impacted and laid off and let go of their jobs. And it was a unanimous vote by the OHA board. And I know they have their reasons for voting on things that come before them. And this was one of them that was hard. And I know when I've had emails from constituents or people that ask me if there's questions on OHA, Ms. Poor and her staff are immediate to respond and follow up on those emails or calls that I get. And Mr. Endenbosch did a good job of conveying again what the responsibility of the city of Omaha and the city council in particular is. I know a lot of us up here during the last storm that blew through that knocked out power to, I think, 230,000 people. I work at OPPD, been there 35 years, great company. I think a lot of constituents got confused thinking that we as city council members oversee OPPD, and I can guarantee you that is not the case. So I guess it's a good education for people out there that at least understand and try to listen in on the best they can on their city government. In respect to Ms. Johnson's appointment, you got a tremendous resume. Your record speaks for itself, but I am respectfully going to vote against your renomination just on the fact of Labor Day is coming up here next Monday, and I always circle back to the dignity of the workers that lost their jobs. Some of them were employees for 3 decades at the Omaha Housing Authority, so that's a reason I'll vote no today. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ms. Poor, maybe just a few questions for you. Follow-up for me, similar to the line of observations Mr. Rowe was making. So I appreciated the update from a sort of a citywide perspective there. And these have been citywide challenges for sure in all of our towers. But one of the most high-profile ones has been in my district at Underwood Tower. And we've been in contact about that. And I've toured with you, and we've gotten periodic updates on our progress there. So I appreciate something specific to Underwood Tower in terms of the current status of any code violations, pest control, and also some of the curb and exterior things we were talking about and making sure those are fixed.
Absolutely. The kind of pest control update and the information I provided when Councilmember Rowe was asking for some updates are certainly relevant to all of our properties. If there's something specific about any of that, I'm happy to answer that. I'm not aware of any changes since we have talked and you've gone through the building and seen all of those, the property and the condition and the cleanliness and all of those sorts of things. Our pest control efforts continue. That's the first tower that we intend to pilot the heat treatment room. So we're working currently to make that happen. I believe the concrete bid for the replacement of the parking lot is going to our board meeting that happens next week. I will confirm that if I'm inaccurate and let you know. Okay. And then there was one other thing. You said you wanted pest.
Any outstanding code violations?
I'm not aware of any.
And so the exterior goes to bid in the next week or two?
I believe not just goes to bid, I believe it goes to the board for approval
Okay, for the
of
work.
the bid, of the work.
And when would the new approach to pests commence?
So that's already been happening. So we became aware of the training when our director over our public housing attended a training back last November, so almost a year ago. And then we've been working on that training since really February. And then early spring is when we started meeting with Dr. Jody Green with Nebraska Extension Office. So all of those pieces have been in place.
Okay. I'm pleased that Underwood Tower is getting priority in that respect.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Look forward to hearing about those results.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't see any further lights on item number 28. Is there a motion?
Move the approval.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 4-2. Item 29, a resolution to approve the reappointment of Jennifer Taylor to the Omaha Housing Authority.
Public hearing and vote on number 29 is today. Proponents, please.
Joni Poor, 1823 Harney Street, here to answer any questions. I will share in support of this that the City of Omaha and the Omaha Housing Authority have been very fortunate in our partnership to receive 2 separate Choice Neighborhood implementation grants, one in the amount of $30 million, an initial $25 million, and then another $5 million that was awarded in a supplemental grant for our North 30th Street revitalization plan implementation, and then one for Southside Terrace and Southside Terrace Indian Hill neighborhood in the amount of $50 million. Both of these grants have been awarded and leverage many more millions of dollars that have come into our community. And those who've awarded those dollars, the Housing and Urban Development, have specifically cited multiple times the relationship between the City of Omaha and the Omaha Housing Authority, and specifically the fact that Jennifer Taylor has served on our board and helps to foster that relationship and to make sure that there is a strong partnership to make sure that we're problem solving, that we are addressing these really complicated redevelopment plans and all of these different components. And so I definitely want to highlight the critical nature of that relationship and that partnership that her seat holds.
Okay. Thank you. Other proponents? I'll note that Ms. Taylor is in the audience if council members wish. Are there any opponents?
Sherman Wells, 4718 Kansas Avenue. So of course I'm an opponent of anything with OHA because they continue to disregard the community's well-being and only looking out for themselves. And actually, speaking of development, the South Side Project development, just recently I had a family member by the name of Minister Menelik who expressed his concern about the development taking place in South Omaha and their failure to reach out to black contractors. And Ms. Poor decided to call the police on him just for voicing his opinion. Again, trying to weaponize the police against black people that talk up against or speak up against her and anything that has to do with OHA. And when they got there, they didn't do nothing because he didn't do nothing. He just said that we should have more black contractors, okay? So again, reappointing these same people over and over that's failing to take into consideration what the community wants or say with OHA is pitiful. And you know, I'm actually losing a lot of respect for the council, which I initially had a lot of respect for each one of y'all, not just as a human being, but in your position. But time and time again, we come here and we tell you things that are going wrong or people weaponizing the police, like she tried to have the police arrest me as well, just for voicing my opinion about the concerns that we have for the way the elders are treated and having to deal with mold and stuff in the units. So I'm against any appointment or reappointment of anybody that has ever worked for or a part of OHA. and I'm gonna continue to do that. Luckily, I was late today, or I would have been up here for the first one too, so thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other opponents today? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Rowe.
Jennifer, can I call up Jennifer Taylor?
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of City Council. My name is Jennifer Taylor, 5122 Davenport Street.
Thanks for being down here.
Of course.
You're down here all the time. So appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you.
I guess I don't want to go through all the questions that I went through with Christine, but I'd like to just get a commitment from you as to your engagement, willingness to serve on the board with integrity, and to, you know, really do the work. I know you have a big job at the city already. Do you have time to serve in this capacity as director at the OHA?
Yes, this, as I want to reiterate what Christine said first and foremost. I had the opportunity to work with Christine when she served for that 10 months as our interim director. She was fantastic, and the agency really generally benefited from her knowledge and her guidance. What probably impressed me the most, just to share with you, was that after she was done with her service, she said, if there's a possibility to ever be appointed to the board, I would like to continue to work at this agency. I know what we do is important, and I want to continue to fulfill that role. So I've always had the most immense amount of respect for her for doing that. Me, I was asked to serve many, many years ago. And when I started on this board, there were a number of issues, and I spent a fair amount of my time working with HUD, going through, and I won't go back to all of the forensic audit and various other things that the agency went through in those early years of my term. But I invested a lot of time and a lot of effort into negotiating the arrangements of how that worked with HUD, with the OIG's office. Subsequently, I spent a great deal of time invested in working through how we could redesign some of our projects in some of the places where we have housing people live. To me, I remember the first time I actually walked Southside Terrace and went into a unit. And people there, it's a wonderful community. I have a lot of respect for how people want to interact and live together at that community. But I also noticed that water main breaks and various different issues.
Council members, just I know we're still having problems with the microphone in the chambers that from last week and earlier this morning. I don't believe we have a handheld, do we? So please talk loud, yes.
There we go. I guess you didn't get tired of listening to me. Doing a RAD conversions and various other self-development that we can do to redevelop the towers and some of our other scattered site homes and some of our other areas where we house our residents. I think it is incredibly important that we have housing that our residents can be proud of. And so I am very committed to kind of moving that process that I have been a part of in the past in my tenure and moving it forward to complete those goals.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that answer. I appreciate anybody that's willing to serve on a volunteer basis for a board. And I think our goal is the same as yours. We just want the tenants to be taken care of well and to have a place they can call home that's livable and a place that they can come home to at night. And we need people to navigate the difficult part, the tough parts that you're looking at from a HUD standpoint. I'm sure that the paperwork and all the regulations and everything that you have to meet taxes you and they're looking to you for leadership in that, I'm sure. So.
Thank you. It's a complex agency and it is challenging. We are entirely federally funded, and that funding is routinely reduced. So it is incumbent upon Joni and staff and us as a board to be as excellent fiduciaries as we possibly can to manage those dollars and to make sure that we spend them and spend them properly.
Thank you. Mr. Bagley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Ms. Taylor, thanks for coming down the elevator today. I don't have any questions for you. Thanks for, you've always been good counsel to me on my 3.5 years on the council on issues, but I won't beleaguer the point on why I vote no today is because of the dignity of the workers. And I was profoundly disappointed in that 3 years ago when that vote took place to lay off 18 or 20 workers through no fault of their own. Employees of OHA, I think some of them resided there. So this is on principle of, again, it's Labor Day coming up and the dignity of the workers had a collective bargaining agreement. And the unanimous vote was made to get rid of those workers. I don't know if a couple of them came back, but that's the reason I would vote no today on this. But I do appreciate your help as a council member you've given me. And I know your resume is terrific, but this is for the reasons I said why I would vote no today.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hug.
Jennifer, since I've been on the council for just shy of a year now, without any exaggeration at all, there is nobody in this building that I could say I respect or admire more than you. And the professionalism that I've witnessed you over and over and over, you're amazing. That being said, I know firsthand that any vote you will take or have taken as a Omaha Housing Board member is going to be armchair quarterback, second guess. I've been there, done that. But I do have to support the people who I come from. I come from organized labor. I come from unions, spent my life there. Like Councilman Bagley, I believe there could have been something different to save those jobs. And yeah, I was disappointed. I knew some of those people. So when I vote no, it's not against you, because so help me, I respect and admire you almost as much as I do Councilman Melton. But I do have to, it is a protest vote and nothing more than that. Thank you.
Understood.
Thank you, Mr. Harding.
I'll say it this way. I think the level of commitment that both you and Ms. Johnson demonstrate and the actions and really the care and the empathy I think you have for the residents, both present and future, are exemplary. And I think it's interesting that, well, not interesting, but I think it's wise in the way that these appointments are made. You bring, as you mentioned, a certain level of talents as it relates to the legal field. Ms. Johnson works with a lot of nonprofits over the years and has a consulting firm doing so. And I think you want to have those kind of mixes and those different talents blended together, working on behalf as volunteers, working on behalf of the residents and future residents of OHA. So I think that's a critical component of any board. And I know your service in the past at times is challenging, but you're willing to take that challenge as you responded to Mr. Rowe, as Ms. Johnson did as well. So I will fully support this nomination.
Thank you.
And I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second to approve. Ms. Taylor, should you be approved today, I realize what we're talking about here is a board position, not an administrative position. But I also happen to know that you live in the Dundee Memorial Park area, and you're on the Dundee Memorial Park Neighborhood Association Board. And I think you're actually the government liaison on that board, or problem solver, maybe you want to call it. So I guess my observation is that should you be reappointed today, I would hope that both as a board member and as a advocate for that neighborhood, that you would be an advocate for those in Underwood Tower that I know are experiencing challenges. As I mentioned earlier, we have challenges in all of our towers right now, but that's the one I've been very much engaged in directly, and I assume that's of primary concern to you too.
It will be a priority of mine, and to the extent that I have continued to update the Dundee Memorial Park Association Board, answer questions, and been available to them to hear their concerns, I have been not only going forward, but in the past. So yes, I will continue to do that.
Yeah, because they're important residents of that neighborhood too.
Right.
Mr. Endenbosch, my last question is for you. There has been some changes since we last talked about OHA at the city council level, at the state level, which ultimately controls a lot of what this board can do and how it's appointed. Senator McKinney introduced and eventually did pass legislation that will impact this body going forward. I believe it takes it from 7 members to 9 members.
Correct.
And requires at least 2 more residents get appointed to this board. So I wanted to have you give a chance to comment on that and when that'll occur.
Well, I can confirm that the legislature did adopt LB 840, which did make a number of changes to the Omaha Housing Authority, including the size of the board from 7 to 9, and including changing the amount of resident commissioners requirement from 1 person to 3 persons. That bill has gone into effect. It also established a complaint process for residents and put in some procedural changes for termination and eviction of residences, and also made some changes to some of the conflict of interest provisions, one of which, in fact, made it clear that Ms. Taylor could continue to serve on OHA. So, yes, those changes have been made. It's my understanding, and frankly, this is more from what I've seen in the media, that the OHA is in the process of soliciting interested residents. I suspect when that occurs, those will be referred to the mayor for appointment. The mayor will ultimately determine what residents are appointed to the 2 additional resident spots.
And I believe that has to occur by the end of the year. Is that correct?
I believe that's my understanding.
Okay. And there's no, to the issue of conflict of interest, which I think was a reason why he pursued some of that legislation, there is no conflict of interest pertaining to this particular appointment.
There is no longer a conflict of interest pertaining to this appointment.
Okay. All right, thank you. I don't see any further lights. There was a motion and a second. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 4-2.
Thank you.
Item 30, a resolution to approve the submission of a proposition for the general election to give the city authority to establish a Good Life District Economic Development Program.
Public hearing and vote on number 30 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and council members. I'm Marco Floriani, Mayor's Office. The City of Omaha supports the resolution allowing this item to be placed on the ballot and put the public vote on whether the city can establish a Good Life District Economic Development Program. The establishment of the Good Life District Economic Development Program is beneficial to the city as it provides an effective financing mechanism to assist in the development of Good Life districts in Omaha. Good Life districts can benefit the City of Omaha by creating jobs, attracting tourism, retaining workforce, generating tax revenue, and creating transformational projects that draw people to live, work, and play in Omaha. With this opportunity, the state is providing that a portion of its sales tax allocation may be utilized and invested in Omaha to create transformational projects. This program does not create new taxes, and there is no additional cost for the city. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Other proponents?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of Avenue 1. With me today is Kurt Hofer, one of the developers of the Avenue 1 development. I just wanted to add, and thank you, Marco, for your explanation. I just wanted to add that Avenue 1 is going to pay for the cost of putting this on the ballot and the election costs for this initiative, as well as paying for the campaign and the education of the voters with respect to this ballot initiative. So with that, so this won't cost the city anything as far as putting this on the ballot, and all this does, what you're doing today, all this does is simply put it on the ballot so that in the future you could create one of these districts by a different set of hearings and legislation and documents, et cetera. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, Nebraska, 68132. We're on number 30, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I can only tell you what it looks like, feels like, probably is like. But you changed the rules at the last minute today. The black gentleman that spoke was not required to sign in to speak on an item. You required me to sign in to speak on an item today. You all of a sudden changed that rule unilaterally. And, you know, it creates lack of transparency and makes a citizen feel like, well, maybe it looks like, sounds like, and probably smells like some sort of corruption within the city council. Now, Ms. Johnson is not here today. Her sign is not even there. What's up with that? Did you guys take it upon yourself to remove her?
Larry, you have to address the
Okay,
item at
now
hand.
wait a minute.
Number 30, which is the Good Life District.
Pete, don't do that. You've already violated the Open Meetings
Stay on
Act
topic.
4
That's all
times
I'm asking
today.
you. That's all I'm asking you.
Well, just let me finish, will you?
If you
You
stay on
let
topic,
the other guy
you're
finish.
welcome.
He was way off the topic.
You're welcome
You
to
let
if you
him,
stay on topic.
You let him get away off the topic,
proceed.
okay? I would like you people to stop listening to the national associations and the Nebraska associations of municipalities because you're taking their orders from them,
That's not on topic, Larry.
okay? Well, I'm presenting it to you.
All right. Any other opponents that want to speak today?
It is now.
Seeing none, public hearing's closed. Mr. Harding, you're
You
recognized.
changed the rules on me, probably at their expense, but
Your time
But
is
that
up, Larry.
gentleman
You're
that's-
off topic and your time is up. Mr. Harding, you are recognized. You can cut that microphone, please. Go ahead.
It's a hard act to follow. I know, I think a key component of what was presented by those in favor of this, that they will be paying for the campaign to further educate those as to what this actually means so that it can be on the ballot in November so that it can be passed. One of the things I want to make sure that people are aware of is that when the initial Good Life legislation went through the unicameral, and Avenue 1 was the first one selected after they made the application. In the subsequent session of the unicameral, there was, as I understand it, really kind of a standalone bill, but it was really an amendment to really some of the components of the Good Life Act. And this opened the opportunity then for, the previous one didn't require a vote of the people to form the development program with the city. This gives them the opportunity to use other financing mechanisms at no cost to the city of Omaha. And in addition to that, the sales tax revenue to the city of Omaha is the same as it was in the original legislation. So the city of Omaha will still receive their 1.5% of the sales tax. The state gives up 2.75% of their collection of the sales tax, which in part then that additional funding can go toward some of those improvements or amenities to the Good Life project. So I know that will all be further and probably better explained in their campaign than I certainly did. I want to thank those associated with Avenue 1 for bringing this forward, and I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion to approve in a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 31, a resolution to approve a settlement agreement for David Keenan versus City of Omaha in the amount of $75,000.
Public hearing and vote on number 31 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
Motion a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 32, a resolution to approve a sponsorship agreement with the Nebraska Center for Workforce Development and Education to host the 2024 Labor Day Parade.
I believe it's the intention of Mr. Hug to motion to withdraw this item. Mr. Hug, you're recognized.
Motion to withdraw.
Second.
Motion to withdraw in a second. Mr. Bagley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Question for the clerk, just to verify, I can vote on this item to withdraw it, but if it was going to be voted on, I would have a conflict that I've already disclosed. So I'm okay to vote on this, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Item 33, an ordinance to accept the bid from Arrow Towing for towing services.
Public hearing on number 33 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Hug.
Is it this today?
Would this be the police department, I believe? Public Works? Mr. Stubbe, I think, might be able to help you.
Bob Stubbe, Public Works.
I should have been talking to you all along.
Yes.
I had some conversations earlier this year about the potential of splitting this contract up, maybe by precinct, so we could
I'm going to have you speak into the microphone there just so people can hear you.
I apologize. I had had some conversations earlier this year about potentially splitting this contract up, potentially by precincts to facilitate the opportunity for some smaller vendors to bid it. I noticed that this is just a year-to-year contract. Would that be something that the city would be willing to maybe look at further into the feasibility of doing it at a later date?
This is a contract that the city uses for towing city-owned vehicles.
So this is not for the police contract? then?
Correct.
Okay, I withdraw my comment. I apologize.
Thanks, that's all right.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any further lights. Public hearing is closed. Next item.
Item 34, an ordinance to approve a major amendment to the West Point Mixed-Use District Development Agreement to allow a kennel as a permitted use. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend denial.
Public hearing on number 34 is today. Proponents, please.
Hello, Derek Reinhardt, 18932 Nicholas Street. The only thing I really have to add, other than what was presented to you guys, is that this place has been here for 17 years with 0 complaints. I didn't build it. I bought it 4 years ago, and it was already in place. I've had no complaints over my time there either. I assume none since it's been there for so long, even before me. The only other thing I have to add too is it looks like we're trying to add it as a kennel, but really we're just wanting to keep it as an outdoor space for the dogs to use the restroom. Omaha zoning really only allows 2 options: completely indoor, or you have full access to outdoor. Well, we're not wanting to be outdoor and have kennels and dogs out there all the time overnight. They come inside, they're always monitored. It's really just a safe place for them to use the restroom. That's really it.
Okay, thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents?
Good afternoon, Kevin Irish, 5416 South 169th Street. I'm a competitor. I want to bring that up right away. I own the Paw Spa Pet Resort. We have our operation out in Sarpy County, which allows animals to be outside, our pets to be outside. We did that on purpose. We did foray into Omaha proper, as a couple of you guys and gals on the council well know. We spent several $100,000 to have dogs inside, excuse me, with underground irrigation for the turf. I fear that if, to me, this is like the old axiom that if the camel puts his head under the tent, pretty soon the camel's under the tent. We see the large retailers such as PetSmart, Pets R Us, and so forth. They don't have their dogs that go outside. I think that if we're going to allow that, I think we're going to start seeing people crop up, and we're going to see these in the neighborhoods. I think it's a bad precedent to set. We did a perfunctory review of the zoning codes when we opened our second resort, and it didn't take long to realize that we can't have dogs outside. I think that's a reason, and I think it's a good reason, and I think that I don't think the zoning or the code should be changed. I'm very much against it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Harding, you're recognized.
Derek, I have a kind of rather maybe odd question for you. Could you come up, please? Did you purchase the business alone, or did you purchase the business and the property?
At first, it was just the business, and then we did buy the property because we got a good relationship with the landlord or the previous owner, and then he wanted to sell the building, and he approached us, and so we bought it after.
Okay, thank you. I'll have some other questions probably later, maybe next week, but thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hutt.
Don't go away. You might be there a while.
That's all right. I'll just stay here then.
Yeah, I was going to ask pretty much the same question that Mr. Harding just asked. So you did lease it initially. How long were you in there under a lease?
It's probably a year or two. I don't know for sure because it was like 5 years ago. But I would say I moved in 19. I think we bought it maybe at the end of it's in a year, probably at the end of 19. If I remember right.
Okay. And was this it was a pet type business prior to you buying it? You bought an existing business?
Yes, it was already a dog daycare and grooming facility with the outdoor area already there.
And do you recall what the name of that one was?
It was Park Your Paws, and then before that it was called Bark Avenue.
Okay, so prior to Dogtopia, it was under the name of 2 additional businesses?
Correct.
Okay, and do you know about when the first business opened up in that facility?
I believe it was 2007 or 2008, somewhere in that range.
Okay. Yeah, this came up in pre-council, and it was brought to our attention that there's an outside facility that was constructed in back of the building, which I guess is what we're talking about. Do you know when that was put in?
It was put in as soon as the first business opened. It's been there since, as far as I know, that's when it was there.
I'm sorry, what?
It was there when the first business opened in 2007 or 2008, from what I understand.
Okay.
I did not put anything there back there.
And what does that look like?
It's
is it just grass?
No, it's turf, and then we have
When you say turf, artificial turf?
Yes, pet safe artificial turf.
Okay.
And then we put it's 8-foot vinyl fencing around it, and then we also use pet safe and very good chemicals to keep it all clean.
What's underneath the pet safe turf?
It's cement that goes into drainage tiles that then goes into a drainage hole that then goes into the ground.
It goes into the ground. It doesn't go into storm sewer or city sewer.
Yeah, the only time we did have an issue with that, which we were addressing earlier this year, is when it rained pretty much every day. That did overflow with rainwater, which then caused that. But other than that, we have not had any issues unless it's raining tremendously like it was this year.
Does it go into, you may not know this, but does it go into what they would call a French drain? Is it some type of a material in the ground like rock or gravel?
Yeah.
Or is it just dirt?
Nope, it'd be gravel. So I think it's like a 5 or 10 gallon hole that they dug in the ground that those drainage tiles drain into, and that's filled with gravel. And then also, I don't know what the stuff is called. Wasn't prepared for this. Was some kind of bio stuff that helps eat away any of the bad chemicals from the urine.
Okay. Mr. President, I'm going to have some follow-up questions for Mr. Irish as well. if we come, I'm gonna reset my button, I'll come back a little later to ask Mr. Ira some questions.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
All right. Ms. Milton, you're recognized.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I want to say I think this is a very unique situation, and sometimes as a city council, we have to look at these situations and go, okay, we need to have a little common sense, and we also need to be fair.
Right.
I wouldn't consider saying that we're setting any kind of precedent today because this business has been there for 17 years. And I understand that this all started, I guess, with some competitors basically filing things against each other. Your business wasn't included back then. And it was kind of since it happened to me, I want it to happen to you. And now you're kind of at the bottom.
Yeah.
And so what happened is the other pet places were allowed to go in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Correct.
And this all occurred in this last year.
Yep.
So just since April of this year, the place on 157th and Dodge got their zoning waiver. A place at 65th and North 16th got a zoning waiver. There was a place at 144th and West Center. They got their zoning waiver with a condition that the dogs could not go out more than 3 times a day for no more than 20 minutes. It sounds like that's something that you're doing. You're just letting them out to go to the bathroom. They don't stay outside.
I'm actually the one on the 144th in Center.
Oh.
That's actually me. That's actually
Okay.
me also. And so, yeah, that process was really easy. There's a probationary period where people can come and talk again in a year. I understand what Kevin brought up because I'm also south in Sarpy County with one of my other locations, and it was kind of frustrating to have to go that far when a mile or two north would be better for our customers. But the zoning laws were probably put into place a long time ago before these types of businesses really exist and took off. But so I do understand his point about set of precedents, but we're in a new time period, I guess. So.
Right. Well, and then I was going to say there's one at 137th and C. That was also given a waiver, and one at 109th and Elm Street, which was also given a waiver by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Problem is they were in different zonings. They were in GC or CC or LC. I mean, and you happen to be an MC.
Yep.
So because you're MC, you have to come in front of the city council instead of going to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Right.
And I think what they're asking us to do is I get it that MC has different rules, but this business has been open for 17 years. You bought the business and in fact bought the building. There was something about they didn't get a permit when they built the outdoor area, but that was well before your time.
Correct.
At least 10 years. I mean, to me, there should almost be a little bit of there should be, Bernard, correct me because I don't think there is, but there should be some kind of statute of limitations that the city can't just come in and all of a sudden say, hey, by the way, we missed this for 17 years, but now we've figured it out. You haven't been a problem. There has not been one call from any of the neighbors. And by the way, I've gotten calls, and there's actually some other places that are kind of nearby down the street from you where there were some issues, and the neighbors called, and we were able to get that kind of rectified between the two of them. So there's an apartment building back there, and in fact, the only people that I have talked to are people that actually use your business and really like it. And so to me, by us coming in and saying, well, somehow this business has gotten away with it for 17 years, you were unaware of it.
I don't get
It was there. You didn't do anything wrong whatsoever and have been operating, at least for the last 4 years, to now come in and have the city of Omaha tell you, basically, you're done here. Your business is over, and to cost you and your employees their jobs and this location, I think it would be highly, highly unfair. And so occasionally we have to make some exceptions. And I would say if you came in and built this knowing, didn't get permits, and you kind of did it and hid it from everyone, that would be a different story. Mm-hmm. You know, I would not support that. But in all honesty, you're completely innocent here.
Yeah.
And a small business owner, and by the way, who does a great job with dogs, and I've got my giant Bernedoodles. I'm a dog lover myself. I just think that that would be completely unfair. And to have the only opponent be a competitor, I think we should just take that too. I don't know what happened. You didn't have anything to do with it, but a bunch of competitors who started basically tattling on each other so that everybody had to go to the zoning Board of Appeals and now say you're the last one here. Everybody else got theirs approved.
Yeah.
And then to say, oh, but we're not going to approve yours, I really think would be highly unfair. And so if this was a new application and you wanted to do this in an MC zone, I think our zoning code is clear. I would follow the planning board. I would follow our planning code. But I don't think we're going to see a set of facts such as this moving forward in the future, which is why I'm supporting kind of making an exception to that. And I will be supporting this today.
And just make a comment on this whole process with the Zoning Board of Appeals and you guys. When it first came to my desk, I was like, there's no path forward. So it was really pleasant to see that there was an appeals, because this is an industry that there are like 5 dog daycares in Sarpy County that would probably be in Douglas County if there was an option to put outdoor areas. So it's nice to see that there is an actual path forward going forward if somebody's to open something new. Obviously, I don't condone breaking zoning laws without getting permits. So.
Right. Well, and I mean, we're going to do, it looks like we're doing a new master plan. You might consider answering the public survey for a new master plan, because this might be something that we need to look at and maybe further define a little better as we go forward and drafting an amended master plan for the city, because I don't think we saw this. But again, because you've already been here for 17 years, I just think for us to now come back and go, oh, by the way, you don't fit in, and so now we're going to close your
That location was the first of its kind in Omaha. I think it was one of the first ones to be a grooming daycare facility, and things that like it really wasn't a business until about 10 years ago. So even their first 7 years, they were just setting the path forward. But it's only been 10 years that this has kind of been a business that the community's looking for.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hug. I'd like to call Mr. Irish up, if I may. Mr. Irish, I want to thank you for coming down today. I've seen you sitting up there for a couple hours almost now. I appreciate your patience. I'm going to ask you some loaded questions because I kind of know the answers, but I want to hear you answer them. You formerly had a business at 168th and Blondo.
Correct.
Correct. And it was the same business.
Yes, daycare, boarding, and grooming.
And you worked with an architect engineering company to design your outside area?
Yes, I worked with Prohaska and Associates. We built a 18,000-foot building. About 8,000 of it was indoor play with turf, with underground plumbing. It was about a $400,000 decision we had to make.
Would you describe that outside system?
What we did is we put piping underneath the concrete. We sloped the concrete. We put turf on top of it that was permeable, so the urine would go straight through, and then it would go into something like a drain tile and then be diverted. So when the dogs urinated inside, it would go down through the turf, and then every night we would sprinklers would raise up and clean off the indoor turf. We knew we couldn't have dogs outside in Omaha.
Okay, and you've been in the pet business for
13 years.
How long?
13.
13 years. Okay, you heard is Derek, right? You heard Derek describe his system. Now, acknowledging that you're not an expert, but somebody with an extensive amount of experience, what do you think of the system that he described that he believes he has installed in
Well, there's a lot of ways to do it, but what we have at the pet resort in Sarpy County is we have the turf, then we have pea gravel. Urine is very acidic, so we want to slow down it soaking into the dirt, because a lot of it will evaporate, and then it goes into another drain tile system. But one thing that we do is every night we use Dawn dishwashing detergent because it does help break it down, so it keeps it clean. Different people have different ways of doing it, but you need to do. We have about 8 inches of pea gravel, so it was expensive to put we have 6,000 feet outside and it probably costs us about $150,000 to make it the way it should be. So it's very expensive, but it's been a good business. My point was to Ms. Melton is that if I went and bought a business that was doing things wrong for the last 15 years, then would that be okay? Can I come in and that's all right? I would think that I would need to do a perfunctory review of whatever business I'm buying to make sure it's following code and there's nothing in violation. So I think somebody doing something wrong long enough shouldn't be an excuse.
Anything else you want to add before I let you go back to your chair?
No, I'm fine. We're probably the largest daycare boarding in Grosvenor. Yes, we are a competitor, but I think we care that that the PetSmarts of the world, I could see them down here next week wanting to do the same thing. I think we're setting a precedent. I think it's the wrong precedent. I think the zoning and codes are in place for a reason, and the planning board recommended denial for a reason. So I think the rest of us that follow the rules, I think we shouldn't be punished.
All right, thank you, Mr. Irish.
Thank you.
I do have one more question for legal counsel. If we were to approve this today, could we put a restriction on it that it can't be transferred to another owner?
Wait, I think you have before you as a major amendment, and I presume you could do that. You could make that restriction as part of the record. You'd probably want to make it as part of the document as well.
Point of order, we're not voting on this. This is just
Correct.
In preparation for next week?
Yes. I think you could impose that condition and/or include in it, change the document to make it clear.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's no further lights on this item. Next item, please.
One public hearing can be held for items 35 and 36, ordinances to approve amendments to the fiscal year 2018 and 2021 Choice Neighborhoods Implementation Grant Agreements.
Public hearings on items 35 and 36 are today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Kelly Johnston Dorsey, Omaha Planning Department. These two ordinances are required and needed because of HUD's 2024 appropriations bill, which extended the expenditure deadline by 1 year. So for our Choice Implementation Grant for up north, it will extend it to 2026, and then for out south, it'll be till 2029. So again, this is something that was passed on the federal level that we're pulling our grant agreement in alignment with that. So that's the purpose of this today. Here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Other proponents?
Good afternoon again. Joni Poor, 1823 Harney Street, as the co-grantee here in support of both of these amendments, and happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, 68132. I'm opposed to this as I was number 30 because I think they both are unnecessary and an expense out of the taxpayers' pockets that should not be followed through on. That's all I'm going to say. It's not necessary, so don't do it. Don't spend it. And don't listen to the national associations and Nebraska associations.
Okay, thank you. Any other opponents? Seeing none, public hearings are closed. Next item.
Item 37, an ordinance to amend Section 23-177 of the Omaha Municipal Code by adding the employment classification entitled Marketing and Communications Specialist. Personnel Board recommends approval.
Public hearing on number 37 is today. Proponents, please.
Deb Zander, City Human Resources, here to answer any questions.
Claire Anderson Hubbard, Human Resources.
Chelsea Ship, Human Resources.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Next item.
Item 38, an ordinance to amend Section 23-177 of the Omaha Municipal Code by changing the title of Marketing Coordinator to Marketing Assistant. Personnel Board recommends approval.
Public hearing on number 38 is today. Proponents, please.
Deb Zander, City Human Resources, here to answer any questions. And Chelsea and Claire are also available.
Right. Thank
This
you.
one and the next one.
So recognized. Are there any other proponents that want to speak? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 39, an ordinance to amend Section 23-177 of the Omaha Municipal Code by changing the salary for social media manager. Personnel Board recommends approval.
Public hearing on number 39 is today. Proponents, please.
Deb Sander, Human Resources. We're here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Next item.
Item 40, an ordinance to accept the bid of MEC Corporation in the annual amount of $65,500 for gun range cleaning at the Omaha Police Department indoor gun range.
Public hearing on number 40 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Next item.
Item 41, an ordinance to approve a master services and purchasing agreement with Axon Enterprise, Inc. to purchase new Axon fleet systems and service the existing systems.
Public hearing on number 41 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Deputy Chief, I'm just had you come to the microphone if you would, just because we talked about this morning, and it is a large-looking number on the agenda here, but I think it's important just to explain what it does going forward and that it continues a program we're already engaged in.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate that. Deputy Chief Steve Cerveny with the Omaha Police Department, 505 South 15th Street. To talk a little bit about this earlier today, it really is a big, important step in our mission to continue with progressive policing, to maintain the public's trust through transparency. This basically incorporates and integrates state-of-the-art technology along with a lot of items or resources that we use in policing. It provides a new contract for our body-worn cameras, our cruiser cameras, the newest tasers, which are less than lethal tools that we utilize to bring very volatile situations under control. This latest Taser 10 is a product that's very, very efficient and has a much larger success rate in bringing violent individuals under control. So also our Axon Air would be a part of this, and that allows our Air Wing unit to have video footage as well. It includes virtual training, virtual headset training for our academy, and in-service training for our police officers for all types of situations, situations that would require less than lethal, perhaps a taser, or all the way up to deadly force situations, also including de-escalation techniques. So it's very valuable training that we can do not only in the academy with new recruits, but also we can take it out to the precincts and utilize it for current officers regarding in-service training. A big bulk of this contract also is our digital evidence component, which allows us to store digital evidence, which is massive, massive amounts. And you're not only talking about our body-worn cameras and cruiser cameras, talking about any type of evidence involved in a case that might be forwarded to us from citizens on their doorbell cameras, security footage cameras, stores, any type of digital evidence, which is, as I said, massive amounts will be stored, and there's unlimited storage. It also allows us to work with the Douglas County Attorney's Office and the City Prosecutor's Office seamlessly with this evidence. They can utilize it to prepare for cases when necessary. So it's very advantageous for many, many reasons. It is a large expense, but by doing so today, or if approved in the near future, it locks in today's prices for a 10-year time period. It also includes refreshers. So the new Taser, which we would be getting with this contract, if they come out with a Taser 11, which is even better, those Tasers would refresh every 3 years, I believe. So every 3 years we get new Tasers for the officers. And if it happens to be a new product, that's the one we get, 625 of them. Our cruiser cameras are refreshed twice through this contract, at the 5-year period, and again at the very end year, 10-year period. We'll get brand new cruiser cameras. If there's advancements in technology, we get that product. Every component of this contract has a refresher aspect to it. Body-worn cameras, the same thing. I believe it's every 2.5 years. So every 2.5 years, we'll get brand new body cameras for 625 for our officers. Cruiser cameras, we're getting 225 in this contract for all of our police cars. So it's really an advantageous, we believe it's a very advantageous contract. It's critical for our mission and our goals. It will help us serve the community much better. as I said, through state-of-the-art technology and just that transparency that we rely on regarding all the video footage, our body-worn cameras and cruiser cameras.
Thank you. Thanks for that overview. And I think folks often don't think about it that way. In many respects, the equipment, when you talk about body cameras and such, are not really the most expensive part of this. It's the data storage and all that entails over a period of time, right?
Very true.
And this is a multi-year contract. The first year, maybe the first 2 years, are budgeted for and fit within the budget, yes?
They do. It's a great question. So the company worked with us because we allotted so much for 2025, and this contract with so many more items and resources involved in it is more expensive annually. So they worked with us to build in that first year that we planned for with what we currently have. And this contract expands a great deal. So the first year is the original amount that we planned for, and then the overage of that is divided up among the 9 following years.
Great, thank you. I don't see any further lights. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item 42, an ordinance to approve an amendment to the purchase and sale agreement with Blackstone East 3700 LLC to increase the purchase price for the parking facility located at the southwest corner of 37th and Farnham Streets.
Public hearing on number 42 is today. Proponents, please.
Jacqueline Morrison from the Mayor's Office here to answer any questions that you may have.
J. Lund, 3555 Farnham Street, Green Slate Development. We're the developer on the project. This is the city's purchase, but thought I would just kind of refresh it. We were here on June 25th, which was the item to adjust the PUR that had gone through the Urban Design Review Board, but I thought I would just kind of, as a refresher, show the project.
Yep, just lift the arm there all
Okay.
the way up. Yep. I think a little further probably.
Never had to do this before.
Sometimes it just takes a minute. We'll see here.
I can hold it like this. The public won't be able to see it.
High tech, yes.
37th and Farnham, this 385 stall parking garage, 162 unit multifamily project above and 20,000 square feet of retail. I'm kind of excited to say I think we're going to be able to open this garage to the public on October 1st, but here for other questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, 68132. I'm against it because I don't think it's transparent enough. As I read it, I get a little confused as to whether you're talking about Blackstone on between 37th and 38th or the Mutual of Omaha garage. But why, you need to explain why we need to increase the purchase price. Are we buying it, or did we build it with TIF? In other words, your explanation of the item is not sufficient enough to tell the citizens what you're talking about. Is this a freebie for the Blackstone development or not? Or are you spending more money to buy that garage after somebody built it? And who profits from it? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. No further lights. Next item.
Item 43, an ordinance to approve an interlocal agreement with the University of Nebraska for the Midtown Medical Center Bikeway.
Public hearing on number 43 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. I'm opposed to it for a number of reasons, but primarily, why not let the university do this? It's their property. let them spend their money, let the university raise funds from the private donors or whatever. Why do we need to build all these recreational things for the med center? I guess, you know, there's going to be competition with the buses, with the bikes, with the scooters. There's going to be traffic problems. So let's let somebody else deal with it instead of the city of Omaha. It's getting pretty congested down there. It doesn't look like the street going down Saddle Creek has been widened. And the recent heavy rain, I don't think, took care of the water any better than it did before. Farnham Street's still in contention. Leavenworth will probably be TIF development between Saddle Creek all the way to the Memorial Park. So this needs to stop somewhere or explain it better to us so it doesn't sound like the taxpayer's on the hook. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other opponents? Seeing none, public hearing's closed.
Non-action items, items 44 through 59, do not require public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on agenda for consideration.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion and a second to adjourn. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Meeting is adjourned at 3:41.
Thank you and have a good day, everybody.